So get yourselves together, get yourself something nice to drink, get comfy, and let's have a nice little chat about overriding fear, doubt, and rejection. So I hope you're able to join me for the whole time, and I look forward to seeing you really, really soon, okay? Just give me a few moments to get things set up a little bit better and make sure, I hope I don't have any glitches today as I did last time. And these things happen from time to time, and I'm just happy to be here again for you, okay? So hang in there, all right? And hi to those of you who just joined in. And hey, get your questions ready, okay? Just get your questions ready, because it always helps to have questions for me to answer you along the way. All right, so let me just get these things going here. Let's see right here. Good, good, good. All righty then. So, welcome to tonight's webinar on overriding fear, doubt, and rejection. I think it's one of those topics that we don't always want to talk about, but it's really important that we do. And it's a real pleasure to be here for you. I like to think that I'm always here for you, and I want you to know that I'm here to support you along the way. And it's really important for me that you feel confident with what you are learning, with what you're doing, with what you're practicing when it comes to your Silva tools and techniques. So I'm here for you more than anything else. So I always tell people, even in my seminars, I always tell them, ask me questions. I'm here as your mentor, your friend, your instructor. I'm here for just a short period of time. And if you don't ask me questions, I really can't give you some of the wisdom that Silva offers in so many different areas of life. And I'm asking you the same thing, to please, ask me questions. Ask me questions as often as you can, because what's really important is that you have confidence. Confidence with your own inner power, confidence with your human potential, confidence with what you're really able to do. You're so powerful. You're a powerful human being. And when we come to realize the power that's within us, it really changes everything in life. And I really hope that you come to the point where you can feel that confidence and know that no matter what happens, you will make great things happen. You will be on top of the game. You will be in charge of your life. You will have answers, to questions, solutions to problems. You will have the ability to release chemistry, to heal, ideas for creating new things in your life and attracting them, the knowledge of how to bring manifestations into your living experience, everything. So again, it's really important for me to do that. Tonight's topic, as I mentioned, is not always the easiest topic, because fear and doubt and rejection make us feel badly. And when we are going through these negative experiences, it's not easy for us to focus on all the positivity in our lives. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that we don't always, have that same rhythm and flow that's really positive and enjoyable and wonderful. And we need to make ourselves feel that way and remind ourselves that we can do it. And I think one of the most important things that I practice is to be really sensitive to my lived experience, both externally and internally. The moment I begin to feel any shift in me that moves me towards fear or towards doubting myself, or when I'm feeling like, oh my God, I'm rejected in some way, or they're pushing me away, or they don't like the work I'm doing, or they begin to accuse me of things, from their perspective that I don't buy into. I mean, all of those trigger feelings of emotion. And that's the word that I want us to recognize, trigger. Because whenever we're experiencing fear, doubt, and rejection, something in us is being triggered. And anytime something is being triggered, we're talking about something that has to do with your past. I think we've had conversations of this type before, but that's who we are. That's what makes us who we are today, are all the experiences in our past, the experiences in our long ago past that really have a lot to do with how we feel today, how we can or cannot manage situations effectively, And most importantly, when negative emotions and feelings like fear, doubt, and rejection, when they pop up, those are the things you want to address right away. You nip it at the bud. You catch it on the first moment, the first second that you experience any of those emotions or sensations, because you don't want them to linger on inside you at all. You want to manage them effectively, override them effectively, neutralize them effectively, because they have the potential of causing harm, not only to you, your body, your relationships, your thinking, your success, everything. So those are the kinds of things that we need to deal with right away. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is by being sensitive to what's going on in your outside world and in your inside world as well. So it's really important to be that sensitive. Whenever I feel anything shifting inside me, anything that has to do with fear, doubt, anger, rejection, anything like that, I really focus a lot of attention to where's it coming from, what's happening inside me, why am I feeling this way, what's going on in my environment, well, what am I experiencing right now? Because the more questions I ask, the more I'm able to get to the bottom of it. If I'm beginning to, maybe I'm going to meet with somebody and my body begins to tremble a little bit because it's a heavy duty meeting, or it's one that causes me a lot of stress, or, whatever it might be. And I feel this sensation stirring inside me. Immediately I stop and I ask, what is being triggered here? What is happening? And most of the time, it's going to be triggering some kind of a core experience like abandonment, rejection, feeling like you're out of control of the situation, helplessness or hopelessness. And these core emotions are rooted in your long ago past, but they lead to fear and or anger and or doubt and or, again, rejection. So we want to address those things tonight and talk about it, before we move, talk about it throughout this hour. We don't have a lot of time, I know that, but at least get the ball rolling where you can then take it on your own, take it from there, okay? I'm always here. I'm always available for you anyway. Patty asked, she says, I took my first Silva seminar in 93. I've been actively practicing daily. Wow, I'm really impressed, Patty, that you actually practice daily. I'm so proud of you. I have written a book, This Way Up, 7 Tools for Unleashing Your Creative Self and Transforming Your Life. There's a plug. It's really, it is strongly influenced by my Silva practice. My question is the best way to get it out there in a big way. I want to positively impact as many people as possible. Any suggestions? Give me think about it. I mean, there's always suggestions. We're always looking for new authors. We can help you maybe put in our catalog as well. And there's all kinds of things that you can do, but you've got to start talking to a lot of people, meeting up with a lot of people, be courageous, step out of fear and doubt and rejection, because a lot of times when you're pushing your books, you may get rejected. A lot of times, do not take it personally. You really need to go out there, and when you believe in what you've written with a passion, then you're going to find the right venue for it to happen. There's self-publishing books. You want to get published by other people and all that kind of stuff, but that's a whole different topic. We can maybe write me an email on the side. If I have any ideas, I may be able to help you. And then Jesus says, hi, great to be here. And Jesus, I'm happy that you're here too. Okay, all that being said, let me go back again to just talking about the core experiences that fear, anger, doubt, and or rejection, stir. And the core experiences, mostly fear and anger, because that leads to stress. And stress, when you're feeling that, is connected to or fear and anger, and connected to core experiences like I said, rejection, abandonment, helplessness, hopelessness, and a feeling that you're not in control of the situation. That's important to understand, because at one point in time, whenever you feel stressed, we have a tendency to trigger the fight or flight response. And when we trigger the fight or flight response, we're triggering that response because we perceive danger or a threat to us in some way, at some level. And the thing is that fight or flight response was meant to help us to survive as a race. Well, we have survived as a race. And that fighting part and the fleeing part is not really a practice that we need to engage in a civilized country. We don't typically fight others to to protect ourselves, and we don't usually have to run away from danger because we live in basically civilized country. I mean, we're lucky that we can say that in most part. So those behaviors of fighting and running away or fleeing have been transformed to emotions of fear and anger. The fight part is the anger part. Sometimes I'm so angry I could punch you, but I don't. I'm too civil to do that. Or sometimes I'm so afraid that I might get rejected, or I'm afraid I'll make a bad decision. I feel like hiding or running away, and that's the fleeing part. So what used to be behaviors, fighting and fleeing, are now emotions that have replaced those behaviors, which are, again, fear and anger. At the very core of that is all of these things we're talking about: fear, doubt, rejection, abandonment, as well as helplessness and hopelessness, and not being in control of all things. And we can manage that, because when we know that they're being triggered, we know that we've reverted to a younger version of ourselves that has not the tools to handle the situation that's in front of you in the present. So in order to handle those tools that you're confronting in the present that cause you fear, doubt, and rejection, you need to stay focused in the present. And we'll talk about all these different things. Let's start with doubt. Doubt is like a coin with two sides. On one side of the coin, it can paralyze you from taking action or making decisions. It can be a painful and challenging experience. It can impact life in a negative way. Because anytime you feel doubt, it's like, what do I do? What do I don't do? Should I not? And it's like all these questions come to mind, and we amplify the doubt by the questions that we think, by the pictures that we imagine, by the feelings that we're enhancing, and all these things can be really, work against us as we want to move forward. They paralyze us. It can cause one to throw monkey wrenches along the way, and in that way, we can almost ensure failure. I mean, every time we're feeling this doubt, what about this? Oh no, it's not going to happen. Oh gosh, no. And so we'll do something stupid, say something stupid, act in a stupid way, or in a less the resourceful way, and we're sure to create failure instead. And we don't need that. We don't need to sabotage our success. And oftentimes this results in finger pointing. Well, you did this and you said that, and it wasn't because of the action you took, and look how stupid you are, and all this finger pointing starts. And we have to remember that anytime we point that finger, we have these three fingers pointing right back at us. Please do not choose to go the victim mentality. That's what finger pointing does. It makes you a victim, and you're not a victim. You're a victor. You have tools, resources, techniques. You have a way of thinking that solves problems, that elevates your living experience. Remember that, okay? We're too quick to not remember these things. Remember that. On the other side of the coin, when we're talking about doubt can sometimes lead you to a lot of thinking. You really like, what about this and what about that? And we're like chewing down to the minor little details to make sure we cover all bases. And we sometimes then, because of that thinking, it can result in heightened performance. We do better because we're very prepared. Think about every little piece of the puzzle or every single bit of detail involved in an achievement in order to avoid failure can work. But it's hard. It's not easy to do it that way. Preparing excessively and over and above the call of duty to the point of exhaustion in order to not fail. My God, there's no fun in that. There's no pleasure in that. All of this thinking, preparing can lead to, yes, a high performance, but with very little joy, with very little pleasure. And that's not what life is about. Life is about achieving things with ease and comfort, with going with the flow, not against the flow. It's with feeling sure and certain, confident as you're moving forward. And it's really important that we begin to think about how to achieve that. And that's what we come to tonight. Doubt affects all aspects of our life, our intelligence, instinct, and our ego. Think about that. We often worry about making wrong choices and looking stupid to others, or worse yet, ruining our lives. And I know it sounds kind of harsh, but what else is there? Ego gets in the way of everything. I think it was Wayne Dyer who said that ego represents, in his mind, edge God out. And when we don't really believe and have faith in ourselves, maybe in higher power, in our talents and gifts, and our resources, then we're edging more than God out. We're edging everything out. And the fact is that there's no wrong choice when making a decision that is fueled with a clear vision, honorable intentions, and drive. When done this way, your drive will direct you, or we'll say, I should say it this way, your drive will be in direct relation to your willingness to make good on all your choices, whatever they are. It's really important that once you make a decision, once you choose, once you get past the doubt and you say, you know what, I'm going to make a choice or be stuck here in this rat hole the rest of my life. I mean, what do I do? Stay stuck and not move forward, or make a choice and make good on it? I mean, really think about it. I mean, what's there to choose? You make the choice and you make good on it. I mean, all in all, not choosing is the wrong choice. When it comes to doubt, and we're talking about obviously self-doubt more than anything else. We're not talking about, oh, I doubt that person's, is going to do good or whatever. No, I'm talking about self-doubt. It's really tied to a belief about yourself. That's what it is. It's what you believe about you. And these types of beliefs are mostly, as I mentioned, I think, rooted in your long-ago past. Typically, when there have been inconsistent or negative interactions with caregivers, or where maybe a child has had to endure a lot of criticism. You're not good enough, you're stupid, you're worthless, and has lost a lot of personal value. That child can grow into adulthood questioning his or her own self-worth. And that can also contribute to a general sense of self-doubt. And this type of self-doubt can affect a variety of relationships, whether it's going to be with your boss or in your maybe love relationships, or in your marriage, with your children, with your family, with friends. And as you go through adulthood, you're going to notice how self-doubt in relationships can be affected, as well as your mental state and physical well-being. So a lot of things are going to be affected in a negative way when there is that self-doubt. We've had these kind of negative experiences as we've been growing up, when these types of programs about our worth and our value have been programmed so deeply that we respond to it, and that it really affects us in a negative way. Susie's Forbes is saying, "Hola, you Latina, Susie? This is so powerful. Thank you." Question: what is the best technique to get past the unconscious broken record of rejection and failure in the past to move forward with success, specifically when it comes to making phone calls career-wise? Thank you for generosity and care in doing these webinars. Thank you, thank you. Now, again, as we go through this program, we're going to be talking about different things that will probably help you. That I know will help you. And when you get my reply after after webinar email, I'm going to suggest to the team to put in, if you don't have it already, the creating new beliefs exercise, because all these things that we're talking about, fear, doubt, and rejection, are tied in to core beliefs. And these core beliefs, as I mentioned, are tied in to long ago past experiences, pretty much having to do with your childhood. Milton Erickson said that anytime from the time that you're, 3 months to about 18 months, mind you, a lot of these impressions are already being done and deeply rooted in your subconscious. So we really need to look at what are some of those deeply rooted programs that show up in our adult life as fear, doubt, and rejection. So anytime you feeling fear, doubt, and rejection, you have literally evoked a younger version of you to handle the situation that really needs to be handled by the adult. And so you do know, but you also need to be very, very mindful as to when your body begins to shift in that direction. I'll talk more about that, okay? But there is good news. There is good news because there's several things that you can do to ease doubt. And one of the main things is to stay focused in the present. We need to stay focused in the present. Fear is probably going to take you into the future. What if I fail? That's something future. What if I get sick as I get older? What if I don't succeed? What if I don't, whatever it might be? But in a lot of times, the reason it pops up and it's triggered is because you've had this fear before over and over and over and over again. It's an old story. It's an old script, and you're not your script. Remember that. You just keep perpetuating it because you allow it to keep surfacing because you haven't dealt with it. You haven't confronted it. You push it to the side and goes, oh my God, I'm so afraid. And say, okay, what is this fear about? What is it making me feel? What am I feeling? What am I afraid of? What am I doubtful of? What am I doubting about myself? I'm doubting I'm going to fail. Well, what's the worst that can happen? And that kind of stuff. But you have to start asking questions. But in order to ask questions, you need to stay focused in the present. Another thing is you got to think those positive thoughts. There's nothing better than thinking positive thoughts, creating positive images, and having positive affirmations, or what I like to call living affirmations, because you experience them over and over again. If I was going to feel doubtful about anything, I would immediately then lean on an affirmation, and you might want to create one as yourself and say, I have so many tools and resources, and no matter how much doubt comes my way, I can always override it with my knowledge, my skills, my experience, my intelligence, and my resources. And if you really kick in that affirmation, the moment you begin to feel doubt, that in itself is going to help empower you. If at the same time you picture the outcome of the things that you doubt you'll succeed in, you then succeeding in instead, then when I picture myself and experience myself already succeeding in the things I doubt I'll succeed in, I hope that makes sense, then that also empowers you. And if you think positive thoughts, I can make it, I can do it, I'm resourceful, I'm going to make it happen. Yeah, it's all doable. If other people can do it, so can I. And if you stay focused in the present and you think positive thoughts, have positive, clear images, and you focus on those living affirmations, come on, you're going to succeed, but you got to do it the moment they begin to creep in. Also meditating, the third one, meditate on the positive future and all the things that you have to be grateful for. When you meditate on a positive future, that means that you have taken the time to create that image of you moving forward in the future with everything. I am a strong believer that you can grow old and have health, love, abundance, that you can thrive, that you can have joy, that you can be an image of the best you possible as you get older and die that way. You don't have to die broken, miserable, unhappy, and unloved, for heaven's sakes. And if you're practicing all the Silva tools that we're teaching, now's the time to continue to create that future you that you want to live. Today, you can turn your life around completely. You can, if you're sick, make yourself better. If you're heavy, reduce that weight. If you're unhappy, start giving more happiness out to others so you will get that back. If you like love, start loving more people and share your love and tell them how much you love it so you can get more of that back. If you're financially unstable, then start making a plan and get yourself to be financially stable. It takes action, and you got to take that action. You got to do what it takes and make it happen. But it takes action. Inactivity is not going to get you anywhere. And that's what doubt does. It brings inactivity. It paralyzes you. And you've got to get over that. I mean, it's not an easy topic. And it's not one that I can be really sweet and charming and loving and all that with towards you, because if you're not doing it, then it's time to like a little slap on the face, like get into action, shake your body a little bit, like snap out of it, get to work, do something good for yourself, and you will thank me for that. I promise you, you will thank me for that, okay? It's always best to catch doubt the moment it creeps in your mind so that you can begin the positive process to override it. Okay, so I hope that helps. Before I go on, I want to make sure that we have at least a better understanding as to what we can do to be able to override doubt. Okay, Jesus says, can I reprogram a 4-year-old now? Or is it part of the learning process that he has to live? I mean, part of the learning process is life, you know? Life is a learning process. We as parents need to be a little bit wiser. I mean, I'm one to give my children, I always did, they're now grown up, but I always give them structure and yet a lot of freedom to explore. I always make sure that my children were accountable for all their actions and that they recognize early on, and 4 years of age is a good time to start recognizing that you are accountable for your living experience. If you step wrong, you might fall. If you climb the tree and don't hold on to the branch, you might fall and hurt yourself. You know, if you hang out with this person, it has consequences. If you take this route or you get on your bike without a helmet, you might, you know, get hurt. I mean, there's consequences to not doing the right things for all the right reasons. And when the consequences happen, is you have to backtrack and say, well, what did you do to make that happen? And then how can you create a better outcome in the future for yourself? I mean, every action has a reaction. Every cause has an effect. And our children need to be really aware of that lesson, and that they are accountable for the living experience. So I think can I reprogram? You're always programming. You know, you program your child to say you can make it happen. You always stay focused on the positive. You have to be the example, though, Jesus. You have to be the example of thinking positively, and only that way, being proactive, being optimistic, setting goals and teaching them to set goals. Although sometimes in the beginning you may need to, kind of like coax them along and, hey, what do you want, for Christmas? And, oh, I want to get myself a new bike. And really, if you really start programming, and by that I mean you start thinking about it, and you've been a good person, and you do your homework, and you do all the right things, then chances are that you might just get that, because usually when you do all the right things and for all the right reasons, and you behave in appropriate manners, the universe has a way of rewarding you, and of course Santa Claus, and that's you as well. But it helps them to start knowing how to create a pattern for achieving outcomes. And you want those patterns of achievement, those patterns that lead to positive outcomes, to be in place at starting now. So just be aware, focus on the positive. And although you say, yeah, there's all kinds of negativity around us, and I know there's people, children who are starving, there's wars out there, and it's kind of sad to see that. But you know what? Let's focus on where we can make a difference. Let's learn where to put our focus. And we can always send some of the money in your piggy bank to those people who need help. And you're charitable, you're giving. And so you open the door, to give, and the same door is open to receive. Okay, so just keep asking me some questions, because I want to move on to doubt, I think now to fear as well, or fear now to doubt. Maybe I've been talking to both and interchanging them as well, but nevertheless, they'll go back and forth in that way. All right. So moving into fear, which I know I've been blading fear in along the way, because fear often is the very core, like anger, of any other emotions that you may be feeling. So that's why it's in there. It's in there no matter how much you want to separate it from doubt and or rejection. Fear's in there. It's already blended in there. So with any fear, you need to face it. I like to say that fear is one of your best friends, like anger. It allows you to know where to place your focus and attention. And truth be told, if you don't confront your fears, you won't be able to override them, much less be free from them. I think of even when you have a fear-based dream, like a nightmare, where you're being chased and you're running down the hall and you're like terrified. You wake up like with your heart pounding out of your chest. I always tell people, go back to the dream, like through a meditation, go back and recall the dream, and then turn and confront whoever's chasing you. You're in control of this. Say, what do you want from me? And maybe that thing chasing you that you're so afraid of, just, oh, great, here, I want to give you a gift. Here's some advice for you to move forward in life. And you've been running away wondering, because we don't confront it and we don't really get to know it. And because we don't get to know it, we make a big monster out of it. And we think it's out to hurt us, where all along it's there to help us. Fear is one of those things. It's one of those emotions that's out to help you. It's not there to hurt you. It's there for you to teach you where, to direct you as to where to put your focus on, what needs attention. Because what are you fearing? And so it really is one of those things that really helps you to place your attention where it's most important. As long as you don't face your fear, they're always going to show up time and time again, and they'll always get stronger. That fear of whatever it might be that you're not confronting will get stronger and stronger through time. So take your time in confronting your fears. Be gentle with yourself. There's no rush. There's no rush here. The only measuring stick is that you lessen the fear day by day. Or every time it shows up, it's less and less because you understand it better. You're exposing it. You're exposing it more and more and more, where every time you expose it, you weaken it. You make it smaller and smaller and smaller. So where do you start? You start by identifying the fears that you have. Become very familiar with the thoughts and the images and the immediate events that trigger fear. And although you have a repeated and reinforced experience with fear, it might be helpful to know that fear is mostly future-based. I said that. I'm afraid of something that's going to happen. Anger is mostly going to be past-based. Oh, why'd they do that to me? Oh, the way I grew up. Oh, what happened to me as a child? I wish I hadn't. I wish I had, or whatever it is. I'm so angry at myself. Where fear is like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, my God. And although it's triggered, like I said, it's because it's been reinforced throughout a great part of our life. When you think of what causes fear in you, it's important for you to keep fear in check. Fear happens in such an unconscious way for most people that they don't even know what exactly they're fearing. They're just like, oh my God, something that made me feel so afraid. I don't know what to do. Like, or they think of something, they begin to fear it. And it's kind of crazy when you think of someone who's afraid to like put their feet in water, or step into the ocean. They're like, really? Like, why? What is so awful about stepping, or let's say placing your feet in the ocean, even if it's at the shoreline? Oh, I can't. In their head, they're imagining all these little creepy swimming things that are going to come and attack them, burn them, eat them, something. I don't know. Even if they're just in 2 inches of water, ocean water. It's just the craziest thing. That's irrational. That doesn't make sense. But as long as it's not being thought through, it's not going to make sense. As long as you're confronted and thinking through and ask questions, no, it's not going to make any sense at all. So get to know what you're fearing. That's really important. It's really, is it really being afraid to talk in front of a group of people, or is it looking and sounding like an idiot on stage? What is it? So it's not like, oh, I'm afraid of talking in front of people. No, it's like, am I going to look stupid up there? That's really what I'm afraid of, that I'm going to look like a real idiot up there. What is the real fear? And as with doubt, you just stay focused on the present. We sometimes fear getting sick as we age. Well, we're still young and vibrant, and we can do what it takes to stay that way throughout the course of our life. But instead of concentrating on staying that way, because we're strong and healthy right now, we're thinking, oh, what if I get sick as I get older? Well, you know what? Thought precedes actualization. The more you think about it, the more you're liable to create it and attract it to a lived experience. Thought expands in the direction that you're thinking it. So if you're thinking that, you're only attracting it into your living experience. Sometimes we fear not having enough money for retirement when we're at a point in our lives when we can still do something to secure our future financially. Make a plan. Do something. Take action again. We often fear things that will never happen. But when our mind is out of control, and originally this course, the Silva method, was called Silva Mind Control, self-mind control, because there's nothing worse than a mind out of control. But that's what happens when you feel fear. Your mind gets out of control, and we tend to make a monster as big as, let's say, Goliath, and of the fear, and you feel small like a David who is forced to conquer it. For heaven's sakes, put fear into perspective and don't exaggerate it in the least bit. You have all the tools to override all emotions and create a life of your design. All you need to do is remember that. Use the mirror of the mind technique and visualize an image of you in the blue framed mirror in a situation that causes you fear, and then erase that image, move the frame to the left, change the color of the frame to white, and then project an image of you in the white frame mirror in the same situation, but with the resources of confidence and courage instead. So easy to do. And then every time you think of that situation, only imagine yourself in the experience of achievement, that you are in the experience of doing the thing that you once feared, but now you handle it with confidence and in courage. And it's easy. No longer do you fear this. And you do that every time. But the thing is, doing it, that's taking action, okay? What is the worst that could happen? That's also another question people never ask themselves. What's the worst that could happen? You know, let's say, everything falls, I don't know. Let's say, for example, we get into a situation that that financially our financial institutions begin to crumble. What's the worst that can happen? And if that is something that you fear, what can you do about it in order to overwrite that fear? Do you know how to plant, to raise your own food? What if there's an apocalypse that occurred? What's going to happen? The very worst thing that can happen is that you'll have to tighten your belt in times of economic restraint and straits, and you're going to need to live a different lifestyle. You're going to have to do with much less. But, with all the resources that you have, I know you would be able to do it. You're strong. You're powerful. You can make great things happen. What's the worst thing that would happen if something apocalyptic would occur? What? Die? And so what? Then what? If you're a believer and I am, you're just now going into the best part of life. I always have this feeling that the energy that fills me, that life energy that fills me, that life force that fills me is never ending and never dies. The body dies, but not the life force within me. So now it's free to go on and experience and be. Come on, what's the worst that can happen? But we don't ask ourselves that question. When things occur in our lives, those are great times of opportunity. We know that. But only as long as you look for the opportunity that's there. And we need to search and dig for opportunity. We need to really dig deep inside. What is it? Some things may appear to be painful. And all in all, when it's all over and said and done, it's like the best thing that could have happened to you. I remember one of my family members had been fired from his job. And he was devastated. He'd been working there for the longest time. He totally loved the work that he was doing. He was left with nothing, basically. He had to file for bankruptcy, but he built himself up and he kept looking for where to apply his talents and his skills, whether it was selling cars or working with organizations, government organizations, whether it was one thing or the other. And the more he kept searching and he kept digging in to pull out his talents and his gifts and his skills, the more he began to realize how many of them he really did have. And he began to provide services for people and help veterans and work with people who had less. And by the time he knew it, as he was giving so much, that door of giving was open and he began to receive so much goodness in return. And now he looks back at the time that he was fired and sees it as the best gift that could ever have come his way. Had not that happened, he would not be living the life that he loves so much today. And we need to stop and think of all the many opportunities that come our way because of changes. But you need to look at it from that perspective, otherwise it'll never happen. And so when we ask ourselves, what's the worst that could happen? You'll be surprised to learn how silly your fear may be. And besides, most of the things that we fear, they never happen. Never happened. Remember 2000, when the millennium was going to shift to 2000, and all the fear that was totally going throughout, the mass fear going out throughout the whole world. The world was going to end. All computers were going to fail. All of our systems were going to go under. We were not going to be able to get money out of the banks, get gas from gasoline. We weren't from gasoline stations. We're not going to be able to have our radio stations work or use the internet. We were totally thinking that the world was going to come to a halt and that the world was going to end as we knew it. And nothing happened. Really? And that's on top of the fact that billions of people had this mass expectation, and expectation leads to outcomes. And even then nothing happened. And look where we are today, 16 years later. Let that be a life experience that you can lean on, because really, most of the things that we fear never happen. I would really advise you to make a list of all the things in your life that you have feared and never happened, and all the things that you feared to happen and how you survived them. You are victors, my friends. You're not victims. Don't let yourself be a victim in the least bit. Jesus says, thanks a million. And then Patty says, Laura, can you please give us all advice as to the best way to positively help the world at the moment? Speaking of fear, the politics right now, the violence, the racism, how can we best help the world? The best way, Patty, to help the world is to be that person who is thinking differently, because you will influence others around you. If you think positively, have positive visions, you're compassionate, loving, caring, you extend a helping hand, you give love, harmony, peace, tranquility, positivity to others. I mean, that's the best way you can do that. I mean, I believe that we are, the best way to help the world is to help our inner world, the world that we can influence the best, the fastest. I can't go to, Africa and help them think, differently, but I can help my family think differently, my husband, my children, my grandchildren, the people I work with, the people I teach, the seminars, in my seminars, when I give them, in my audio programs, in the webinars, and how many, the books that I write, how I get out the free things I give, like these things like here, like giving and giving positivity. I believe that's the best way that you can help the world, because most things that happen in the world are truly out of your control. They are. 90% of what happens is going to be, are things that are out of your control. You can't do anything about it, other than vote. You really can't make the decision as to who's going to be elected. You can't govern, our government. You can't manipulate, our financial institutions. You can't, restructure on your own the educational system. You can't do all these things. 90% what happens to us happens to us. We can't control it. The 10% that we can control, like our attitude and how we interact with others, there's power there. I really believe that in the work that I do, and it doesn't matter what work you do. I could be a teacher, a bus driver, I could be working at a cleaners, and still I can have that impact on others. So I would just say, be a congruent and consistent messenger of goodness and positivity, of hope and faith, of harmony and peace. I think that's one of the best ways to go about it. And lastly, we have rejection. Rejection is like doubt and fear, is a trigger core experience. That's one of those things that we talked about before. Abandonment, rejection, helplessness, hopelessness, and the feeling that you can't control everything. And so it gets really frustrating when we experience these things, but they're triggered. So that means that when they're triggered, they are something of your past that has not been dealt with, as doubt and fear. Okay, so it has not been dealt with. It has its roots closely tied to doubt, obviously, and it's a childhood experience that was reinforced time and time again and pops up automatically when the fight or flight response has been triggered. And this response is triggered when you perceive some kind of threat to your being. I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this hour that fight or flight are behaviors, and those behaviors have changed, have evolved into anger and fear that are emotions. So at the very core of all these things, obviously, are emotions. And this is what results in stress. And if stress is 90% involved or responsible for, in some way or another, to your health problems and or to relationship problems or to life problems, then what's really at the core is not the fighting, the fleeing, it's the fear and the anger. So we really need to look at fear and anger. That's why I mentioned that fear and anger are your best friends. Get to know them really well and know what's happening in your life, why they're being triggered, why you're experiencing them, and the core emotions or the core experiences that are attached to that fear and anger that lead to stress. So, we need to find a way to interpret that rejection. What are you experiencing? What kind of rejection are you experiencing? Is it a rejection because I feel that my work is not going to be appreciated, or I'm going to be criticized? Is it a kind of rejection because it's a love type of rejection, because maybe I'm feeling rejected by my partner or spouse, or by my friends or family? What kind of rejection is it? Once you begin to identify that kind of rejection, and I can tell you, I myself go through things like that. I myself, no matter when you're involved in any kind of relationship, you're going to feel some kind of rejection. Sometimes it's from your peers. Sometimes it's going to be from your family members. Sometimes from the people that you love the most. And that's where it begins to really kind of hurt a little bit, because when you feel that you've been criticized and put down by, or maybe decisions you made, and now you begin to feel like, oh my God, they're not happy with what I did. You feeling that they're not happy with what you did is a rejection. But you know what? You can't control them. You can't control what people think, or say, or do. You can't control any of that. The only thing you can do is do what you feel and believe was the best work you could do, the best decision you could make, the best way to handle a situation. You work from the core of your heart and your spirit to do the right thing for all the right reasons for all involved. And if they have a misconception or misperception about that, if others have a misperception, it's really not your fault. It's not your problem. It's mostly their problem. You have to move forward and stay firm. And it takes a lot of effort. I know, especially when you feel rejected and criticized by those that you love the most. It takes a lot of effort, but you got to stay firm, and you got to know in your heart of hearts you did the best that you knew how to do in that given circumstance. Could they have done better? Probably not. Really? Probably not. Okay, so you have to stay focused in the present. Stay focused in the present, and ask these questions. Ask these, the questions that allow you to interpret what kind of rejection you're experiencing, where it's coming from, how long has it been there, how tight is it into your childhood? How was your experience back then? When you were growing up, having experiences of rejection, maybe from your parents or brothers or sisters or your peers as well, for whatever it was. Maybe because you weren't born on the right side of the street, maybe because you didn't have enough money or dressed nicely, maybe because you have a funny mark on your face, or you're a certain color, a certain religion, or whatever, born on the wrong side of the tracks, or because you were super wealthy. It doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter what it is that went on in your life, because it's because anything can lead to the experience or the interpretation of rejection by a child. If your parents are going to go out to have dinner and you're a little baby and you want to be with your parents, you say crying and crying and crying, you feel totally rejected and maybe even abandoned. But you interpret it that way because you don't have, I know, the mentality to know any better or make a difference. But nevertheless, you interpret it that way, which means that we can always go back in time. And that's why creating new beliefs exercise that you'll get as a link is, can be valuable. You can always go back in time to that younger version or that younger you who is experiencing that rejection or that criticism or all that negativity, or the lack of support from your caregivers, or that whatever it was, the pain or the suffering. You can always go back, and as an adult that you are today with knowledge and experience, you can go back and inform that child you and say, honey, look, this is really going on. You interpret it this way, but it's not about you, it's about them. Or mom and dad were just going to have a fun time. They love you so much and they were always by your side. So can we give a different meaning to these experiences when mom and dad go off on a date night? Isn't that something that would be nice to do when you finally grow to have, your love, the love of your life by your side, and you go out or whatever? So a lot of times it's important to interpret the kind of rejection. It's also important to know the people who are rejecting you. And you probably are going to look at when you look at the big scheme of things, you're probably going to realize that the people who you feel rejected by is a minority. There's one or two people out of thousands. Think about it, thousands. If I'm in a situation where I feel like maybe a family member or a peer is rejecting me, but yet I'm doing all this great work around the world and I'm serving humanity and I'm working my butt off just to make good things happen with all the joy and goodness in my life, then, really those who are rejecting you are the minority. Focus on the majority. Know where to place your focus, okay? On the majority. Pamela says, hi, Laura. I think that rejection can be used positively as feedback. Maybe that's not where you're meant to be or what you should be doing. I totally agree. That's why it's important to come to understand. That's why it's so important to come to understand what kind of rejection you're experiencing, to interpret the rejection. And ask the questions, what's going on in my life? What is happening here? And basically say, what can I learn from this experience and how do I respond to it moving forward? Because it literally can create the path that you're going to take moving forward. Feedback is always something that happens in direct relationship to something that's already done, that you've already done. So the feedback is you get all this, this downpour of or whatever of rejection, or the feeling of rejection from those who you're close to with, then that's going to say, well, wait a minute, what's happening here? Is this a place I want to be? Is it not the place I want to be? Is this the kind of environment I want to be working in? Is this a kind of family structure that should remain, or can we improve on this? Do we need to bring more information to the table? It's a point in time to say, is it time to make a life choice, to make something different happen in my life? Move forward in a different direction. So definitely it can be feedback. Thanks so much, Pamela, for saying that, okay? So again, people who reject you are usually the minority. So just be clear that when you feel that rejection, stop and ask yourself, well, who else is rejecting me? And of all the people I have helped with this particular situation, what's the ratio? It's probably 2 to 98 or 2 to 998. So really put those things into perspective. And people who reject you, again, being the minority is one of those things. And there are things you can't control what people think, say, or do. And that's the important thing. The most, I think, important thing to work on in order to overwrite fear, doubt, and rejection is to work on you. For you to be the person that you love, admire, appreciate, and approve of. Because when you come to be that person, it doesn't matter what anybody says about you. You know yourself better. You know where you're coming from. You know what your self-worth is and how valuable you are to the rest of the world of people that you really care for. And you're always going to have someone who is going to reject something about you. Always. And that's not a bad thing. I remember a little story of let's say, a waitress who waits tables, and there's a person who always goes into this coffee shop and he orders coffee and a donut. So, after ordering the same thing every morning, coffee and a donut, by the third or fourth morning, the waitress comes in, knows it, just brings a cup of coffee and a donut without him even having to place an order. And he enjoys it. But one day he feels like having tea and a biscuit, And so when she drops off a coffee and the donut, he says, no, wait, I don't want coffee or a donut. She says, what do you mean you don't want coffee or donut? What's wrong with you? You always have coffee and donut. He goes, yeah, but I don't want coffee and donut today. I want some nice green tea, and I want a biscuit with some jelly and some butter on the side. You don't ever have jelly and butter on the side and a biscuit, or tea, much less. Are you off today? What's going on? And this whole thing happens with little things, much more with the big ones. The little signs of rejection, like, what's the matter with you? What do you think? Are you crazy? Are you stupid? What? Look at you. And so even as little as ordering, tea and a biscuit, or think about times that you've colored your hair differently. I'm talking mostly to women, not only exclusively, but or you've cut your hair or combed it in a different way. It goes like, whoa, new hairstyle, like, oh, that's weird, kind of, and there's a sense of rejection that stirs from that. But when you feel confident about you, you love yourself, appreciate, admire, and approve of you, and you move forward through life with a heart of doing the right thing for all the right reasons for all involved, those people who reject you can say whatever the hell they want. It's just a reflection of them, not you. Okay, well, anyways, there's so much to talk about when it comes to these things, I know, and I'm just, I just hope that some of the things that we kind of tossed around tonight will give you a way to like really think things through a little bit differently and put things into perspective. Don't make a monster out of fear, doubt, and rejection, and don't walk away or run away or turn your back from it. And because really, I mean, the more you confront these things, the faster you'll override them and you can work with them. You have the mirror of the mind technique. That is an excellent technique that you can use for this particular situation, any of these three things. And you'll also have like the creating new beliefs exercise that can always help you along the way. And by all means, always focus on positive thoughts, positive imagery of a positive future, positive living affirmations, be in the experience of achievement, and really be that example, consistent and congruent example of someone who focuses on goodness and does good things and does them for all the right reasons. I really hope that, this helped in some way, and I really, really look forward to getting together with you sometime in the near future. And if there's some other topic that you'd like to talk about, then by all means, send us some ideas as to what you'd like for me to focus on, and I'd be happy to put together a 1-hour webinar for free for you. I think next month we're going to focus on presenting a Silva Method Intensive live. So I'm going to be offering the Silva Life System course. We call it the Intensive because it's going to be really catered and geared for you. And we're going to do it live over the internet so that more and more of you can join in. And we'll send you more information along the way about Silva Life System Intensive live over the internet and really catered to your needs. So because we're such an intimate group most of the time, it really makes for a great platform for me to serve you even better along the way. So hang in there, make great things happen, build your confidence with the Silva techniques, and go forth with courage, confidence, love, acceptance, admiration, and approval for you. All right? Check you out next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. All right? Talk to you soon. Bye.